We are back. Happy Friday, everybody. Josh here with On the Wrong Lead. Another episode of You Gotta Be Sha Tinning Me. Oh, man. It's like just a warm hug. And maybe it's just the whiskey talking, but I don't know. It just feels nice. Oh, that's right.
We're
The
back, baby.
old
We're back.
whirlpool. The old whirlpool. What? I forgot. Is that View
Hong,
Generation?
that is Golden 60,
Golden
Hong Kong,
60.
North America.
There you go. A
The
little
plush
Golden 60
contest right there.
plushie.
So.
Yeah, our friend Murphy, Greg, he sent me for my wife. He sent me a plushie from Japan. Oh, I forgot the name of it now. Very accomplished horse, but I think it was a gray. And they're just adorable. Like why? Like you know what? It's like why is it that American horse racing does all this stupid shit, bunch of stupid things, but what can't they do? They can't make plushies.
Yeah,
Like literally, like
you want fans. This is what you need. You need merch. You need something. If you're gonna advertise it, right? Don't sell scam. Pieces of horses. Don't do any of that. Just stuffed animals, right? Like that's
yeah.
it. That's all you need. I flipping love this thing. This is awesome. I'm like, how do I get more of these? Like,
Yeah. And instead they have merch that can only be used to meme on people, like the Bella Toga shirt that Mark sent over to Andrew Champagne. So I was at the Kentucky Derby, or not at the Kentucky Derby. I was at Derby for Kentucky Derby week, and it was 150th this year, and I didn't even bother looking at the merch because I just knew it was going to be real expensive. I remember last year or 2 years ago when I was at Saratoga, I got a Run Happy Travers polo, and it was like Cutter and Buck, which I think is a pretty decent brand.
It's decent, but
It was
yeah,
like $70.
they're always
I'm like,
expensive.
oh my,
Yeah.
what am I doing over here, dude? Like, they got me on vacation, spending all the kinds of money, like. But you know what's funny is the casinos are the same way. My wife and I, we have so my wife has we'll say a healthy obsession with tumblers. So we have entire cabinets filled with stainless steel tumblers, and so we got matching Aria. I think it's Corsicle is the name of the company, or Corksicle, something like that.
Sure.
They are like the 18-ounce or 20-ounce mugs, like coffee mugs, like stainless steel coffee mugs. I use that thing every day. So yeah, it costs $60, but and like I think
Hey,
normal retail is like 30, but because it's got Aria on it, they doubled the price. So I feel like that's horse racing's. I feel like that's what horse racing's trying to do. Horse racing thinks it's Vegas. I think they can charge
yeah,
$25 for a cocktail and
stadium
$100 for a
pricing,
polo.
stadium everything, right? It's a sport, so just charge sport prices, right? Like you got to pay someone $25 million. Yeah, but
I mean, I'm part of the problem, right? I spent the first 10, 15 minutes of drinking champagne this week ranting about Kentucky Downs, and then we just got done wrapping up a hour and a half stream on Kentucky Downs. So, and I was able to string together a couple things today, so I actually made some money on Kentucky Downs. So, woe is me. I'm the problem, right? I'm bashing the
talk is
product, and then
talk is cheap, and money talks louder. So
although I'm gonna have to clip this at some point. There was a pretty funny moment where I went on about a minute long rant on Jamie Spencer and how he just like is just not good and all this stuff. And I brought up a ride he had this year where at Kentucky Downs where it's just like he had one mount and like you could tell he didn't watch a single race leading up to it. And I actually said something on Twitter about it. And then I realized that it was not Jamie Spencer, but it was Dylan McGonigal. And I just completely thought it was Jamie Spencer this entire time until I went back and looked at the receipts, and I'd already got done. I'd already got done ranting about it, and it was just like,
he still sucks though.
yeah. I mean, hey, going 5 furlongs on the straight, man. Jamie Spencer. I don't think there's anyone better, but everywhere else, maybe don't need him. But you're not here to listen to us talk about Kentucky Downs. You're not here to listen to us talk about, um, you know, uh, Saratoga. You're not here to talk about Matt's, not betting North American racing at least until Breeders' Cup,
My
if not longer.
my retirement from domestic racing. Yeah, no, I got fed up. I had a really well. I've never been really profitable, right? And even getting into this game, right? I think what motivated me was the fact that I was not great at it, right? I don't like being bad at things, and if there's something I really hate that motivates me, I'm like, I need to figure this thing out. That's why I've done all this for Hong Kong, because when I started betting this during COVID, I knew absolutely nothing about it. And I was awful at it. And I was like, well, this is cool. I'm going to try and figure it out because I know nothing about it. And I'm the type of person that's just very stubborn, right? I can't not know things. And so, for the past however many years, I've been betting probably too many races, right? I mean, learning how to handicap and learning how to bet are two very different skills. But I think I've just come to the conclusion, right, that there's no beat in this game at this point, especially domestically, right? Like just, and you've seen it. I'm not gonna, go back through all kind of the things that have been posted on Twitter about CAWs and how it's, bad for the game. But I think the people it hurts most are the people like us, the people that do bet a lot of races, the people that are trying to be profitable, and the people that probably in our ilk, post on Twitter that they are profitable. I don't think many people admit that they aren't profitable in this game, but it's a really hard game to make profit. And I think when you see things like rebates that I don't have access to and access to like last tick that I don't have access to, if you're in a game where if I handicap perfectly, right? If I had a model that handicapped everything exactly to the price of the horse, and because of the disadvantages I have and some of those things still couldn't beat the game, and oh by the way, I don't have a perfect model, and oh by the way, the people that I'm up against I'm not smarter than, and they're increasingly getting an edge on me, however they're doing that, be it organic or unorganic means, I don't know, it doesn't much matter, right? But it just wasn't fun anymore because you know running stuff was like, I can't beat this. And Hong Kong, not that I think I can beat that either necessarily, because I think Bill talked about it last week on Drinking Champagne with you, that this place invented the CAW. Probably the CAWs here are just as good, if not more, than North American racing. They have a lot of the same problems as North American racing. There's late money, right? There's pools that get crashed here. But at least you have big fields, and at least you feel like the product's on the up and up, and you're not dealing with a lot of like inside information or anything like that. How many times, here have you said, "Wow, I don't know how that horse was so short." Whereas North American racing, I felt like I was saying that every day, every other race. Wow, how did that go off 8-5? Wow, that horse looked like shit on paper, but wow, it went off and it ended up winning. It just it wasn't fun anymore. And so, maybe someday or some track, I'll get back into it and find a passion. But I needed the break. I was throwing money at things that I didn't enjoy, and hey, might as well try and focus and do something different, right? Pick my spots at least a little bit here, and you know play a lot fewer races for maybe a little bit more money than I have been. So
Yeah, and I think like for those of you guys who maybe only listen to the Sha Tin stuff, I do the podcast with Andrew Champagne. He was out last week, and so I had our Matt and I's friend Bill on, and he had just went to Bet Bash, which is a kind of a conference for betters, specifically sports betters, but there was a little bit of horse racing stuff there, and just his experience being there and thinking about sports and thinking about that stuff, and just kind of how it kind of ties into horse racing, and how things go. And Bill is very much a model based player, not necessarily so much on horses, but definitely for sports and esports and other stuff. He's got models for all kinds of stuff, and you know, even he is someone who probably could, if you wanted to put the amount of volume in, could go computer assisted, but it's just, yeah, like it just leaves a bad taste in his mouth. And um I think there are some things that we can do at Hong Kong, at least, does to alleviate some of it, right? Like the computer money's in there, but I think we talk a lot about, I mean, the computer bettors aren't going anywhere, but I do think there's better ways for the computer bettors to coexist with the retail bettors. I mean, just today there was some, conference going on, and they mentioned, yeah, the computer bettors are pushing the retail bettors out, and it's like no fucking shit.
Yeah.
I mean, think about how many times people complain about stuff, and like, it's interesting because I think you look at a couple of different places like Naira, for example, right? Naira shuts the computers off on the win pool at, I think, a minute to post, 2 minutes to post, something like that, allegedly, right? And I think somebody, maybe it might have been Pat Cummings that did some research on it, or it could be somebody else, but it seems to be working. It seems to be true, at least in the win pool, right? Um, but what does that mean? It means the exacta pool, it means the double pool, all that other stuff becomes much more efficient. And I think the problem in all of this, and when you get down to the absolute, um, like you get down to the bare bones of it, right? Like you get down to like just like what is the issue? As betters, we are looking for inefficiencies in the market, right? We are looking for horses that have a 25% chance of winning a race that are 5 to 1, 6 to 1, right? I mean, that's just like the most obvious way, right? But essentially, we're looking for horses whose price we think is out of whack with their chances of winning. And I think the biggest problem that, especially in the win pool at a place like Kentucky Downs that we're having right now, is that you could absolutely be right when you're placing that bet as the horses are loading in that this price is incorrect, and the computers are going to go ahead and adjust it for you, and you have absolutely no say in it. And I don't know. There's ways around it, and I know Caleb today had a horse at Kentucky Downs specifically that was, I think, 6 to 1 loading in the gate, went off at 5 to 2, and he's like, I would have never bet this horse at 5 to 2,
Yeah.
right? And of course, the horse runs second on top of it, so you feel like extra dumb, right? That you bet a horse at a price you wouldn't have bet it at, and he loses, right? So it's tough. I don't have the answers. I mean, I'm sure there's people much smarter than me that do have answers. It seems like Hong Kong's figured it out. You still do see late drops in Hong Kong, and you see late drops in pools that are astronomically bigger than the average pool here. But I don't know. It just feels more transparent, and maybe that's just what we need, right? We just need more transparency, right? Um,
Yeah. And I mean, look, I think you see what, and I think they've acknowledged it, right? But I also think that they're just wishing, right? Because what you see in Hong Kong that's different from here is you have the retail players still around. And
yeah,
I think you see the things that it alleviates when you have things like field sizes, right? If you have 12 horses, there's a lot more opportunity to pick a horse and find an inefficiency in there. It's a lot harder to model 12 horses than it is 4. Um, you know, you see even so okay, you have the retail player around. That's great. You see what class-based racing does. I know Equibase kind of threw out there like, oh, we should go to a class system. But if you look at I mean, that's never going to happen in North America for a lot of reasons. And the most of which is that every single trainer, every single successful trainer has probably built themselves up on gaming conditions for races, right? How often do you look at a condition book in racing and it says something like, oh, horses that haven't had 2 wins since April 3rd of 2013 minus, synth starts or something like that. Some just ridiculous, stupid thing. And immediately all you have to do is look through that book and say, hey, who paid off the condition racing, office to get this in here so that my horse could run? Right. And then you point to it, right? It's the Linda Rice special. It's like,
yeah.
and that doesn't exist here. It's class based racing because you're moving everything to the mean, right? So those little edges, everything ideally, right, in Hong Kong, these horses should all be the same odds on the board. They're not, but that's what they're striving for. They're striving for a fair race of 12 horses. And then moreover, shit like this, right? I mean, we joke, but that keeps the retail player around. Why would I show up in the middle of nowhere at like Aqueduct in January to go bet? What incentive do I have? That whole pool is degenerates like us that don't have anything better to do, and computers that are eating our lunch, right? So like, I don't know. It's just it solves a lot of ills when you actually have people's money in there, and then you get a base of retail that has some support behind it. Right now, you know, there's no retail better aside from maybe us that is trying to support this thing. And even when we say that, why would somebody like Naira, who's in bed with these CAWs anyway, or I use Nair as an example, but anyone, right? Any track, why would they say, well, we're going to cut off our own nose for a little bit to try and save the sport? No, they're going to take their money, right? They're going to always
Hmm.
put the dollar bill in their wallet and move on. And you can't just expect retail to come back and say, oh, we need a better sucker to keep feeding us, right? Like, people aren't that dumb. We're pretty dumb, but we're not that dumb. So, it just, and that's why people like me, I think, and the average retail player are just gonna leave, right? It's not a good opportunity. And that's just one of many. But again, it's, I don't know. No one's going to want to take the hard steps to fix it because, like I said, it's greed all the way down. I've posted about that a number of times. No one's going to give up their slice of the pie. They need to increase that slice of the pie. And if we're the only one, willing to put money into it when everyone else has to take money out of it, the math just runs out. You can't have 1 + 1 = 7. So, and that's what they really want at the end of the day. So, hey, it is what it is. Hopefully it doesn't die based on that. But I don't know. I don't know where it'll go. I know I'm stepping aside for a little bit. I don't think I bet enough for them to miss it, but oh well, right? And it's weird for me to talk about how I'm not going to bet horse racing anymore on a horse racing podcast. So apologies for that. but
Yeah, right. And here I was thinking that we were going to be nice and positive on this show, but yeah, I guess we're just picking up where we left off the last couple of weeks on drinking champagne. But hey, I'll make sure timestamps are in here, so if you don't want to hear us rant, hopefully you've skipped
Matt
ahead.
Matt complains about the state of horse racing for 20 minutes. So just
Yeah,
skip over that part and get to the good stuff.
you've skipped ahead here to 17 minutes and 10 seconds. We're gonna start with the late pick three. We're gonna do I don't know. We might play around with the format a little bit here, Matt. I think for now we'll stick with the late pick three, but I think we're gonna, as time allots and as stuff happens, we'll include other races, other opinions maybe we have on the card. Try and take a look at more stuff. Maybe a couple of the cards we'll do, full card analysis and stuff like that. Especially I think in the winter when there's really nothing going on.
Yeah.
That might be a little bit better to do, but. We'll start with the late pick threes for now, and that's starting at race 8, Mao Shan Handicap. And I didn't mean to sound all like Asian there. That probably was a little bit of
I don't know how
handicap
you're.
was supposed to
I
come
am
out
not the
very
expert on
white, but
your Cantonese pronunciation. I don't know how good or
I
bad it
don't know,
was. I
dude.
assume
I'm like
poor.
three old
So
fashions in
apologies
at
to
this
anyone.
point. Yeah, I'm like three old fashions in at this point.
Maybe
Like, who knows
timestamp
what's gonna
beyond that
happen?
one too. Throw another
Yeah,
cut in there.
get the cultural appropriation cut out there as well. But race 8 here, we're going to be going 7 furlongs, 1,400 meters, and we got a nice field of 13 here. Um, you know, I looked at this race, I saw the pace complexion, and I got to tell you, I think that this might be there might be another race previous to this that maybe we get a wire to wire winner, but I think that this race has got a shot at a possible wire to wire winner, and I think you got three horses that might go to the lead. I think you got the 4 USS Constitution. You have the 9 Circuit Mighty, and then you have, where is he? The 11 Gallant Crown. Now, I'm kind of putting the line through the 11 Gallant Crown because I see this horse is drawn out in the 10 post. And has led at Happy Valley, but at least in the last Sha Tin race, didn't really show much of propensity to get to the lead. Was I think just in general, Sha Tin just a little bit better racing, and maybe the horse is just tired at the end of the year. I don't know, but I don't really see this one necessarily being able to get to the lead from that real far wide out post. You see the couple times the horse did get the lead, drawn a little bit more inside in the 5 and 6 post. So I think it's going to be tough for the 11 to get the lead in this spot, and I think if the 11 Gallon Crown does get the lead, I think is just going to have to do too much work, and I'm going to want one of the other two horses. I think your most likely win or leader is probably going to be the 4 USS Constitution. The speed map tend to agree with me here. I think that last race at Happy Valley, obviously going a little bit longer, and is cutting back here, but horses in the 3 post should show some speed, and has been pretty forward in the last couple starts, at a pretty big price, and interestingly, a big price for John Size, who tends to be a trainer that wins a lot of races and gets bet. So I kind of look at this horse and I wonder if maybe this is just a horse that needs to kind of, drop down in class, drop down in weight. Um, has just kind of progressively dropped down. And I mean, it's still carrying 133, which is pretty significant. So maybe this isn't the time, but I just think with the inside draw here, and the fact that this horse does have some speed, and there's just not a whole lot of it in this race, I think shows, I just think the horse is going to be pace advantage enough that maybe he's able to get it done here. And if not here in this race, maybe 1 or 2 drops in weight down, I think might be the actual spot. But the other horse I'm going to use is the 9 Circuit Mighty, who has shown some tactical speed. You go back some races, but this is kind of an angle that we've talked about before. This is a horse getting the rail, was kind of drawn a little bit outside last time out in the 7 post. And I don't know, you cross the line through that race and you look at the race 2 back. Horse was drawn in the 4 post, much more favorable draw, and set off the pace, but finished second by a shoulder in that race. So I think can be competitive at this weight, at this class, and I think there's just going to be a lot less pace in this race, and maybe and being on that rail, maybe just inherits the lead, or sits a nice trip in second. So I'm just going to use those 2 horses. I'm going to use the 4 USS Constitution, and I'm going to use the 9 Circuit Mighty. There just really wasn't a whole lot in this race that I really liked. I mean, you got the 13 Harmony and Home kind of moving up in class. That looked a little bit interesting. Does have a couple of okay races at this level, but those are at Happy Valley. Had to drop down to the bottom in order to kind of get a win and kind of bounce back up. And then, I mean, you're looking through here, and you don't necessarily have a ton of really good form. Maybe you're looking at the 1 Ballistic Win, um, but Ballistic Win, basically came from the clouds to win last time out, and I just don't think that there's going to be enough pace for that to be a viable option in this race. And so, while I think it is a real strong underneath play, I don't know. I think people might see that last win. They see that big close. They see the second by a neck. They think this horse maybe's turned it around. I think might be a little bit of an underlay in here, so it's going to be a little bit of a play of against. So I'm just going to go with the 4 and the 9 in this spot. Matt, where did you kind of land?
Yeah, it's funny because I probably took a lot of the same notes as you on how I saw this race. There's not a lot in here, and there really is no speed, and I ended up on 3 different horses than you did.
Hmm.
So but that's good, right? I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
think we talked about that doesn't happen too much in North American racing. That's why we love this place. I actually did go to the 11,
Okay.
and I think for a couple reasons, right? One, I love me some weight breaks, right? And so, when you look at it, this horse is dropping 8 pounds from the last time it went off, right? It was running with that Zenny at Happy Valley, 123, drops down to 122, gets an extra 7 pounds with Ellis Wong up. You know, I think Ellis Wong has to go, right? You said you don't really like it because it's having to break out from the 10 post. I think that just means that this horse has to send, right? It has no choice. It's not going to slot in behind anybody from out there. So, he's got to go. I used it as a B. Ellis Wong was 1 for 43 at 7 furlongs last year. Part of running my own stats is I can run these numbers, and part of running those numbers is seeing some really poor stats like that and then betting them anyway. So, uh,
Hmm.
it's like, what are you doing? So I'd say if you're gonna put this on a win line, you need a price, like a pretty big price at that, right? I mean, you've been getting what 15 to 1 or so. You probably need that. But yeah, I mean, I think that's where I'd want to go out of the, quote unquote speeds in this race if there is any. And so I'll use that as a beat. The two A's that I had, I think I was just trying to look for, some horses that, either were unknowns or were, kind of coming down. I went to the two, just because those races that it's been running in class three aren't that bad. And this isn't even a strong class four field, right? And so, sometimes class carries, right? Sometimes it's just, hey, this horse has been running against better, and this is probably as easy a spot as this horse will ever get. I don't love the horse, but hey, if it's running okay in class three and it's not, this race has nothing that I even would want to pick in a class four race, he should win here. Or has at least a decent chance to win here in my mind. Gets a jockey upgrade to Brenton Abdullah. Can't believe I'm saying that, but yeah,
Hmm.
I think this is the right level. This is the right spot. If that two can't win here, it's not a racehorse that's going to win. And then look, it's 0 for 9 lifetime, so maybe it doesn't want to win. But um, this is got to be the spot if ever. And so I'll use that too as an A. The other one that I did like the 8. That's the obvious trip horse of the group, right? If you're reading comments and if you pulled on some of the long comments as you click through the website, this horse is slightly raced. It had trouble at the start. The start was kind of troubled. I don't think it impacted too much. It does have to, kick out in the stretch. It does get blocked and then kind of ran on. So you say, hey, maybe this horse has at least a nose for the wire, or could have run better than it did. It's hard to know how that's going to translate 2 months later, right? Every horse is coming off a 2 month layoff here. So, it's hard to want to take too many swings on this card just because you don't know how those layoffs are going to work. You can't really tell much from trials because horses really aren't trying to go all out and show anything. They're kind of just looking to get legs back on the track. Um, but those, the two races it's been in, those have both come back pretty strong, right? There have been horses that won out of both of those races already. So, at least it shows, hey, that horse showed some fight in a field of horses that can win at the level. That's a suggestion to me that, hey, maybe this one can win at the level too. So I think the 2 and the 8, Viva Graciousness and Solid Win, are going to be my A's. And then, like I said, Gallant Crown, just if I think it's going to get wired, that's the horse that I would want to try that as my B.
Well, good start. We both can't hit this late pick three, so
Yeah, perfect.
that's exactly what we want to see. We got
Exactly.
we're five wide, and
Spread it wide.
so
Use them all.
hopefully somebody gets there. But yeah, let's move on. Race 9 here. We got a 6 furlong race. I am not going to attempt to pronounce that, so we don't have an issue like before. And once again, we got a nice full field of 12 here. Um, I I think I ended up pretty formful on this spot. I think I'm gonna end up in the top three choices if I had to guess. In the three, the 6, and the 8. In this spot, I think if you had me pick my top choice, it's probably going to be the 6, Mastermind. Still doesn't have a win. So still, a Hong Kong maiden, but we all know that doesn't really matter. But interestingly, this wasn't the race. There was a race where I saw Zach was on one of the short prices and he jumped over, but I think that might be the next race.
Yep.
But yeah, I see Mastermind. Zach's ridden this horse before. Comes back here, and I, I, at least looking on Speed Pro, like I don't use my own figs. I kind of just use the energy figures that Hong
They're
Kong
better than mine
provides.
anyway, so don't
Yeah,
don't feel like you need to start figure making.
yeah. The 6 looks like a horse that's kind of been improving.
Yeah.
And I think they tried that 7 furlong distance last time, and I think I like seeing the horse cutting back again, back to 6, where I think he ran his best race 2 back. So you get a bit of an outside draw here, but I mean you get Zach aboard. I guess I'm not really too concerned. I think if he had a better draw, um, I would maybe be more strongly on the 6, but it still is my top pick in this spot. I do like the 8 Geneva. And with Hugh Bowman aboard, and Hugh obviously rode Mastermind last 2 times, but he shows up here for a horse that he's ridden 3 times, and this is just kind of a horse that's been a little bit snake bitten. I remember that Ruby Lot race last time out. Ruby Lot ran a pretty nice race. This horse kind of had a little bit of trouble, kind of got out there on the lead, and I think got a little bit hustled and maybe used up a little too much energy getting out there. But kind of a versatile type. Has shown some speed going 7 furlongs, has closed going 6, and is kind of coming back to 6. And I think if Hugh can kind of use the tactical speed, um, I think you might get a better run. And also of note, I mean, last time horse is out in the 12 post, right? It's coming back in the 5 post where he was, the last 3 times. So this could be one that's been improving, and maybe people are going to look at that last race and be like, oh, the horse kind of took a step back. But you kind of throw that race out 'cause it's stuck in the 12 post, and maybe this, you get a little bit better price, but I don't know. I kind of feel like I said, like I'm going to be on the top 3 choices here in the 6 and the 8, and then my other choice, who I have written out as my B, probably my third choice here, the 3, UN Long Elite. Won last time out with kind of a baby Z pattern. I see good trip written down here, but I mean the horse kind of lost a little bit of position, and then ended up winning by a shoulder there. Now is getting a bunch more weight, and I see a horse that won from the rail going 6 furlongs, and now is kind of drawn outside to the 8 post. So, um, I see the first race, obviously first time starter. You cross the line through it, but kind of similar outside post, and didn't run all that well. So I don't know. I have a little bit of concern of the horse kind of drawing a little bit further outside in this spot. So. Um, Yeah, I think the 6 and 8. I probably have 80% of my money through the 6 and 8, and I'll have a couple of tickets with the 3. I'm hoping maybe the 3 gets a little bit bet just because of the win last time out, and like uh, no, this was a horse. I think Zach was on the 1 who
First
won
love,
last time
yeah.
out. Yeah,
Yep.
and Zach ends up getting back on the 6 instead. So, I just think that the 6 is probably going to be pretty well met in this spot. So, I got 6, 8, and 3 here. How did you kind of see this one, Matt?
Yeah, honestly, the same exact way. I got the 8 and the 6, and those are the only two I'll use. I do think you'll probably get some okay prices. I do think, the 3 takes money. When you see Good Trip just won, that horse had the dream rail trip. I mean, does not move an inch, never has to break stride, wins by the only nose hair it's ever in the lead in that race, to be honest with you. And to your point, right? I mean, it moves up in weight off of that, and it's not going to get that trip here. Couldn't possibly get a better trip. So I think because of that, just based on the price I thought you'd get, I tossed. I looked at the 5 for a little while. I think that horse kind of fits, but it is drawn wide. It did get a really good trip last time as well, and maybe price dependent, right? I might use that as a B if it pops up and you see it out there. I may use it either in a late double, or just kind of as a place bet, or underneath in a Quinella or something like that, right? Because I do think there's ability there, but it also got a very good trip off of last race, and still hasn't won, right? And even that 6, right? I think Mastermind probably got a great trip as well last time, right? And so you're dealing with 3 horses that on paper probably ran the best races, the quote unquote best figs, but didn't have to really work to get there at all. And I think of those, right, I favored the 8 just because it at least had some adversity, right? It faced some trouble. It was running 3 wide that race. It had to show some fight, re-rallying at the end to, kind of come back. I think Hugh Bowman is set up for a much better year than last year, right? If you remember, he was suspended for a while. He got hurt at season 2. So, I'm kind of looking for a resurgence for him this year, hopefully. And, hopefully that starts week 1. So, 6 and the 8 will be my only 2 that I'm using here. And I think I'm willing, to let the 3 and the 5 kind of kind of drift. And if they do drift up, then maybe they come back into play in some other bets for me.
Cool. Let's move on to race 10 then. We have the Sunset Peak Handicap going 6 furlongs here, and another full field of 14, and we have an extra entry. So I mean, technically we might have a scratch here. We're obviously looking at the earlies. We're trying to get this out a little earlier for you Hong Kong junkies, and maybe give you guys a little more time to
It's
digest
week
what
one.
we're,
We were
what we're
excited,
talking. We were very excited. We were very excited to rant apparently, and also talk about Hong Kong. But Matt, I'll let you go first here on this closing leg. Where did you kind of land here?
Yeah, I unlike race 8, this race had a ton of pace in it, right? I mean, you have a bunch of horses that not only want the lead, but look like they have to get the lead. And I think that's more so, not just saying, hey, there's a lot of pace, but a lot of horses that are those need the lead types. That's when you really see a meltdown, I think. And so to me, this thing screamed melt just because I think you have the 3, the 4, the 5, the 14 are all going to want to go. And so I was trying to look for, closers and say, okay, who do I think can, close down in here and, kind of pick up the pieces if it falls apart. The couple horses that my eyes went to there, one actually moving up in class, the other moving down in class. I like the 12 Prince of Porty moving up from class 4. Gets a really great draw. Obviously, this is a tougher ask than it was facing in class 4. Um, but hey, it's been that closer, right? I mean, it's gonna get the setup that it needs, and those races that it's been in have been pretty strong, right? I think horses have won out of those races, and I think that's something that I always look for, right? Are you not just are you running well, but are you running well against horses that have then subsequently, won well? It's not the metric, it's not the only thing you use, but at least it's a metric to say how strong was that race you were coming out of, right? Were you running against horses that have kind of shown something? And so those, a couple of those horses even have come up to win in class 3. So, hey, I think given price, you can, given the setup, my eyes went there, and hopefully you get a decent price on it. The other horse I went to was the one, Gorgeous Win. It's dropping from class 2, right? And those it hasn't really been embarrassed in class 2 at all either. It's been running really well. And maybe it's just better than these, right? I don't know if you find any value in a win bet, but this horse, kind of blazed through class 3 very quickly last season and moved up to class 2, and it's been in class 2 for a while. And so, barred anything poor off a layoff, I think may just win this pretty easily and move right back up. It should be better than these horses. So 12 and the 1 are my A's. The horse I used as a B, and very reluctantly, was the 7 Module Construction. I mean, on the one hand, I think horses that have run 11 starts in their lifetime and have hit the board 10 of those 11, I mean, naturally your eyes are going to say, like, that's a really good horse, right? I mean, it's never done anything wrong. I just always get a little bit wary when the horse isn't really doing anything right either, right? It's always there. If you're hitting the board 10 and 11 times, and I think the last out it finished 4th, so, barely off of that, that show line. I don't know. Does the horse just hate winning? I'm not sure. The only reason I use it here is because if you remember right structure, you get paid for finishing second. And so, not that I'm trying to play for a consolation bet, but I would like to hit both. And if you're going to pick a horse to finish second in here, why don't you pick the horse that is a professional at hitting the board?
Hmm.
So, I'll throw it in as a B. Um, Again, I don't think you get any value on the win line at all. I wouldn't bet this horse to win because I think horses like this tend to be overbet on the win line when you see horses that are running well but just not winning. Um, that tends to burn you because you move up in weight, right? I mean, you kind of get the worst of both worlds. You don't win and you end up losing a weight break off of it. So I'll throw it in tickets, but 12 and 1 are probably where most of my money's going to be through in this race, thinking it's going to melt.
Yeah, I didn't know what to do with the one. And I think you're right. This is just the best horse. But once again, this is a horse that's getting drawn all the way to the outside. Maybe with an outside on the or an off the pace horse, a closing horse. Maybe it just doesn't matter as much. And it's Zach, so it probably matters even less. So I had a question mark next to it. Probably going to use in some way, shape, or form, but I'm not happy about it, especially because like you said, I don't think there's going to be any value here. I think people are going to see Zach and um, they're going to see this horse dropping in class. Um, and I think the run style fits like you kind of said. I will say that I'm a sucker for speed, so I did use the 5 Glory Elite, who is going to be part of this pace complexion, and yeah, I mean those last two wins are just so impressive. Um, horse is going to be taking a pretty big step up in class, but it is dropping weight at the same time with the step up in class. So interested to see how this horse gets bet. Was the 1.6 favorite last time, but before that you were getting 7-1 and double digits before it, and the horse was running pretty well, was going pretty good. So interested to see what kind of price we get. Horses drawn inside in the 3 post, which you like to see for a speed horse. So I thought of the speed horses, this is the one to use. So I'm going to use the 5 Glory Elite. And then the 9 Captain Win is one I know you didn't talk about, but kind of looking for that off the pace type. Horse has got decent enough form with the first and the third. The last two starts out, and what I like is the horse is drawing the rail. So I think this horse is gonna be able to save some ground. And I do think that if we do see some kind of meltdown, even on these short races, the race melts down, but I don't think you want a horse coming from 6, 7 lengths off of it. I think you want something coming from like 3 or 4 lengths off, maybe, and I think that's where a horse like Captain Win's going to be sitting. I think you might see him kind of similar to his last race, sitting like six, like between sixth and eighth, between like 3 and 4 lengths off, and um, I think with inside position and being able to save some ground, I think he's going to be set up, I think, pretty well to kind of close into what might be a fast pace in the spot. So I like the 9 Captain Win as kind of my B horse. I'm going to use the 5 Glory Elite, and then the one Gorgeous Win will probably make some of my tickets just so I don't get boomed by Zach at the end, but um, a pretty reluctant use there. Anything else in this race?
No, I don't think you're.
Okay. Well, I figured we would at least talk about another race on the card. Kind of give maybe a best bet type or maybe just another bet, something that we're looking at, long shot, whatever, some type of other play. Just how we're looking at it. I'll go first just because I'm going to be the race before our sequence, and I kind of we were talking a little bit beforehand, and you were like, yeah, I know it's a tough race, and that's the race 7 here. And I think your morning line favorite is going to be the 2 Chew Chow Spirit, and I think that's going to go off as your favorite. Um, and I think it's a pretty worthy favorite. Horse has gotten better and better. Won a nice race last time out in class 2, and is staying in class 2, just a slightly different ratings distribution here. And I think the horse is going to be picking up a lot of weight, 13 pounds, staying in the same class. And I think there's a couple other pretty decent horses in the spot. So I'm going to have the fade on the 2 here. I think that my top pick is going to be the 4 Superb Boy for Zach Purton. I forget what Lou's first name is. But um, yeah, I think that this is going to be a horse is going to be forwardly placed. He is kind of drawn outside. It's an 8 horse field, and he's drawn in the 7 post. And actually, the 2 horses I like are drawn outside. But my main play here, I think, is going to be a Quinella play. And I think this is going to be a type of race where you're going to get a horse that's going to get out to the lead, and that's the horse is going to be the 7 Frantank. Um, I think that this is lone speed in this spot, but what we've seen from this horse is this horse will get the lead and just kind of absolutely fold. Now, I think he might have a little bit easier of a time here. One, because he's going to be shortening up a furlong, so he's got to cut back. And two, there's just not any other speed in here. So hopefully, the bug can kind of rein him in just a little bit here, and maybe not win, but if he can hold on for a second and have a nice Quinella here with the 4 Superb Boy, who is my top pick. I think he's going to be your second choice. I don't think this is going to be any kind of wild price, but I do think you might get a little bit of a price here on the 7 coming up in class. So 4-7 Quinella is what I'm going to be playing in this race, and basically hoping that this race kind of holds together, and the horses that I think are going to kind of be 1-2 kind of end up that way. But yeah, I don't know. I generally like in the earlier parts of the card looking for races where I think horses might get a bit of a pace advantage. And I thought the 7. I mean, if you're seeing like 20-1 or something, some crazy, like I think it is worth betting at a long price. But with a short, kind of a short field, I don't know if you're going to kind of get that price on this horse. But um, I don't know. I just thought maybe a little 4-7 Quinella might be a way to make some money in this race. What about you, Matt? What was the race that you kind of looked at?
Yeah, Maya went to race 5. The horse that I think is going to take all the money in here is the 4, My Wish. And anytime I can see a horse that is going to be your very strong favorite that has never actually won a race, especially when you have a jockey like Luke Ferraris up, that's a horse that I really want to get around. And I think, my eyes immediately are like, okay, where's the opportunity in here? Luke Ferraris was 1 for 55 going 1,200 last year.
Hmm.
You can't take, I think the morning line, at least in on the Sky Racing, and those things are wildly off a lot of times. So who knows? But I think the morning line you saw was 5-2. You might even get lower than that on this horse. There's got to be opportunities in this race. So, unfortunately, I don't like too much in here, but Maya's, and I hate watching trials, but I did it anyway in this case. And Maya went to the 6, Pearl of Pangs. I think firsters, you've seen it before. They provide a lot of opportunity because I feel like the public doesn't know what to do with them and they never get bet, right? The trial I thought was pretty good, right? It was only running, you know, it was running, I think, flat on this, and it was running a flat 1,000, and it actually broke really well. I think something that stands out for a horse that's never had a start is how do you actually get out of the gate? And normally you see something rough, or you see, at least some hesitation. That horse broke well, not like a rocket, like it doesn't go out and get the lead, but it can handle the gate, and that's half the battle in this. And then it's making up ground, coming out in the middle of the track running straight, and that's not even the good part of the track usually. So I think there's some ability there. Whether you can get that the first out, I don't know. Matthew Chadwick isn't all that inspiring. I said, hey, Luke Ferraris was 1 for 55 at 1,200 last year. Matthew Chadwick was 1 for 78. That's not great. Or sorry, 1 for 74. That's not good. But I'm betting it anyway. I do think you get a price on it that way. And so, I'm going to play it each way. I'm going to play a win place on this 6, just with not a lot else in this field, and hopefully catch a live one coming in first up, and maybe get some really long odds, and hopefully make the card for me. So.
Cool. That's going to do it for us here on You've Got to Be Sha Tinning Me. Check us out at onthewronglead.com, at wrong_lead on Twitter. Obviously, if you are watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe. If you're listening to this on your favorite podcast feed, just go ahead and set up that auto download, subscribe, and it really does help us out. But you'll catch me at Cherry Drank. Matt Carlson is at Slow and Steady. And happy Sha Tin opening week. Let's make some money, guys.
Good to be back.